It was a freezing morning in downtown Chicago. The kind of morning where even the city feels quiet, like it's holding its breath. People rushed past each other, heads down, lost in their own struggles. But near the entrance of a luxury cafe, something unusual was about to happen. A rich woman in an expensive coat stood watching a man across the street. He looked tired, worn out, but careful, like every step he took mattered more than anything else in the world. He held the hand of a small child, maybe 6 years old, wrapped in a thin jacket that was clearly not enough for the cold. What the woman was about to do next wasn't random. It was a test. But she had no idea this test would change her life forever. And the answer she was about to hear from that poor father would leave her completely speechless. Before we begin, if you believe in kindness and real-life inspiring stories like this, don't forget to subscribe to our channel Kindness Story Hub, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments. It really helps us spread more meaningful stories that can touch hearts around the world. Now, let's begin. The woman's name was Victoria Hale. In the business world, she was known as sharp, powerful, and unshakable. She had built a company from nothing into a multi-million-dollar empire. People often said she could read anyone within seconds. But deep inside, Victoria had a question that money could never answer. Are people still kind when no one is watching? To find out, she had started doing quiet tests in different parts of the city. Nothing illegal or cruel, just situations where she could observe human nature. That morning, she chose the coldest street corner she could find. Across the street stood Daniel Carter, a single father. Life had not been kind to him. He had lost his wife 2 years ago and had been raising his daughter, Emily, alone since then. He worked small jobs whenever he could find them, sometimes skipping meals just so Emily could eat properly. That morning, Emily hadn't stopped coughing. Daniel knew he needed medicine. But he also knew he only had $7 left in his pocket. Victoria watched from a distance as Daniel looked at the pharmacy sign, then down at his daughter. His face showed a quiet kind of pain that didn't need words. She decided to approach him. She walked across the street and stopped right in front of him. "Excuse me," she said calmly. "I need your help." Daniel looked confused. A woman like her, expensive coat, polished shoes, didn't usually ask people like him for help. "I'm conducting a small personal experiment," she continued. "I'll give you $500 right now if you agree to answer one question honestly." Daniel froze. $500. That was more than he made in weeks. But instead of jumping at the offer, he pulled his daughter slightly closer. "What's the question?" he asked carefully. Victoria studied him. "If you had to choose between helping yourself or helping a stranger, what would you choose, and why?" Daniel didn't answer immediately. He looked at Emily. She was shivering. Then he looked back at Victoria. "I think that question assumes I have a choice," he said quietly. Victoria raised an eyebrow. "Everyone has a choice." Daniel shook his head gently. "Not always. Sometimes, you're just trying to survive long enough to make the next right decision." There was a pause in the air. Victoria wasn't expecting that answer. She tried again. "Let's make it simpler. If I give you this money, you could buy food, medicine, maybe even a warm place for your daughter tonight. But if I asked you to give it away to someone more needy than you, would you do it?" Daniel looked down at Emily again. For a moment, he said nothing. Then he slowly reached into his pocket. Victoria watched closely. He pulled out the $7 he had left. And without hesitation, he handed them to a homeless man sitting nearby against the wall. The homeless man looked shocked. "Sir, I didn't ask you for anything." Daniel gave a tired smile. "You didn't have to." Victoria stood frozen. "But why would you do that?" she asked, her voice softer now. Daniel adjusted his daughter's jacket. "Because I know what it feels like to be cold, hungry, and invisible. And because I can't fix my whole life right now, but I can fix someone's moment." The street seemed to go quiet. Even the traffic felt distant. Victoria felt something shift inside her. She had seen generosity before, but this was different. This wasn't charity. This was sacrifice. Still, she wasn't done testing him. She took out her wallet and pulled out $500 in cash. She held it out. "Take it," she said. "No conditions." Daniel looked at the money. Then he looked at Emily again. For a moment, Victoria thought he would take it. Anyone would. But instead, Daniel gently pushed the money back toward her. "I can't accept that," he said. Victoria blinked. "Why not?" Daniel's voice was calm, but firm. "Because I didn't earn it. And if I take it without understanding why I'm being given it, I might start depending on luck instead of effort. I don't want my daughter learning that life is about waiting for miracles from strangers." Victoria felt her chest tighten. "That's not what I expected," she admitted. Daniel gave a small, tired smile. "Most people don't expect much from people like me." Those words hit harder than anything else. Victoria had spent years studying business, people, behavior. But in that moment, she realized she had never truly understood dignity. She looked at Emily, who was now quietly holding her father's hand. "Does she need medicine?" Victoria asked softly. Daniel nodded. Without another word, Victoria turned and walked into the pharmacy. 10 minutes later, she returned with medicine, warm soup, and a thick winter coat for Emily. Daniel looked shocked. "I didn't ask you to." "I know," Victoria interrupted gently. "But I want to." For the first time that morning, Daniel didn't argue. Emily smiled weakly as she sipped the warm soup. And something inside Victoria began to break open, in the best way. She sat down on the cold sidewalk beside them. "I've spent my whole life testing people," she said quietly. "But I think today I failed my own test." Daniel looked at her. "What do you mean?" Victoria sighed. "I thought kindness was rare. But I think I was just looking in the wrong places." The wind moved through the street, but this time it didn't feel as cold. Before leaving, Victoria made one more decision. She wrote down her personal number and handed it to Daniel. "If you ever need work or help, call me," she said. Daniel hesitated. Then he nodded. "Thank you," he said simply. But Victoria knew something had changed. Not just for him, but for her. Because sometimes, the richest people aren't the ones with money. And sometimes, the poorest people carry the deepest wealth inside their hearts. As Victoria walked away, she looked back one last time at the father and daughter sitting together on that cold sidewalk. And for the first time in years, she smiled without calculating anything. In the days that followed, Victoria couldn't stop thinking about Daniel's words. You're not waiting for miracles, you're building survival. She realized kindness wasn't about how much you give. It was about what you choose to understand. And that one encounter changed everything about how she led her company, how she treated her employees, and how she saw the world. Years later, her foundation would go on to help thousands of struggling families, single parents, homeless veterans, children in need. But she always remembered that one cold morning in Chicago, when a poor father taught a rich woman what true wealth really means. Because kindness doesn't always look powerful. Sometimes, it looks like a tired man giving away his last $7, and still standing tall. And in the end, that is the kind of strength the world never forgets. If this story touched your heart, remember this: kindness doesn't require money or status. It only requires courage. So wherever you are today, choose kindness. Even in small ways. Because you never know whose life you might change, or how much it might change yours.